neuroscience area is becoming one of the larger clusters of research labs working on neurological diseases across Europe. In this building, we are 13 groups with a recent incorporation of the neurobioinformatics groups working all together on neurological diseases. This means that more than 100 fully dedicated researchers are working at the bench doing research on these diseases, very close to top clinicians at the hospital. The hallmark of our research are the neurological patients. We are fully dedicated to these patients, and they are important from the beginning of our experiments to the end when we applied our discoveries to these patients. 2012 has been an excellent year for our research. We published around 170 articles, generating an impact factor of more than 1,000 points. Behind these papers, there is a lot of good science and hard work. For example, groups working on mechanisms of neuronal death described new roles for the flip lung activation in TNF-alpha-induced apoptosis. Other basic scientists have defined completely novel models of disease. This is the case of a new knocking mice that perfectly resembles the phenotype of the myocardial disease. Another example are dopaminergic neurons produced in vitro from the skin of Parkinson's disease patients. Both models will give us the opportunity of screening new drugs to treat these neurological conditions. Importantly, some of our results have really clinical implications, and for example, the neuroimmunology group has recently defined those patients that really need to be tested for aquaporin 4 antibodies in the presence of signs resembling neuroencephalitis optica. Also, the neuropediatricians have incorporated in their diagnostic workup exome sequencing as an interesting way to identify new patients with congenital myopathies. In the same line, we continue leading the field of clinical trials in neurology in our country, with spectacular results for some interesting drugs such as fingolimod or firategrast or natalizumab in MS patients, and also the kickoff of the largest EU-funded clinical trial on hypothermia for stroke patients. Exciting news came up from our area in 2012. It was the year of the opening of the new building of the Multiple Sclerosis Center of Catalonia, CEMCAT, where we are now. We also signed very interesting agreements. The neuroimaging groups signed an agreement with Siemens to develop and set up new sequences for their 3 Teslas equipments. Regarding translational research, several of our groups are becoming international leaders in the field of biomarkers and genetics. I want to stress that 2012 was an excellent year for neurogenetics. In fact, some of our publications were done in very high impact factor journals such as Nature Genetics or Lancet Neurology. Regarding the science in these publications, some very interesting genes were discovered, for example, coming from the first GWAS performed in migraine without aura or in patients with type 1 Chiari. Also, in psychiatry, they discovered interesting genes involved in the dopaminergic neurotransmission pathways and being really important in attention deficits and hyperactivity disorders. We also took part in Metastroke, the largest study on stroke genetics performed to dissect the role of specific genes of each stroke etiology. And the finding was really amazing to see how different strokes are from a genetic point of view. One of the great news this year was the prize to one of our colleagues, Dr. Mercè Boada, one of our senior neurologists. She got the highest distinction from the Catalan government as a recognition to her career devoted to Alzheimer's disease patients and research. In the near future of neuroscience, resources, people, and networking are our main priorities. In fact, this year we have been sharing some technical personnel and some platforms, and the experience has been really great. Regarding people, we have 3 main wishes. We would like more foreigner students coming and joining our labs to really make a more international environment. In fact, this year we were able to bring some Chinese students to some of our labs. Second, for the young, talented local researchers, we are trying to potentiate their incorporation mainly using the Miguel Servet program. And really, they are bringing fresh and new ideas to our labs. And finally, we also want to capture seniority by sharing talented researchers from other institutions using a double appointment program that is just starting. Finally, just to mention that we believe that networking and collaboration is so important that we are ready to sign a very important alliance with the Institute of Neuroscience at the Autonomous University, since we believe this is the way to really reach important goals that are beneficial for our neurological patients. With this joint adventure, we think we will be one of the more important centers in neuroscience, not only in Spain, but also in Europe.